They continued to talk until their garments and fur were finally dry enough for them to get dressed. It was now well past noon, when Angelica and Dylan were ready to come out of hiding, and they resumed their course along the path. The ongoing experience of traveling with Dylan brought him closer to Angelica's heart. Although they had just met earlier this week, it felt like she had known him for a long time. Without realizing it, she drew close to him as they walked through the trees that were much smaller than most of those in the surrounding forest. They suddenly heard loud hissing, followed by a slithering noise. An air of danger whisked past them, causing their fur to stand on end. Whatever caused the noise, it was approaching them at a tremendous speed from directly ahead of them. Quickly, Dylan drew his bow and arrow, and he pointed it straight on at the creature who had made the noise, causing it to stop only seconds away from them. "Wait!" cried out Angelica as she drew her arm out. "It may appear to be a snake, but also has a bushy tail and arms. Are you sure it's an enemy?" Dylan answered, "I still think we should be careful." The figure before them curled tightly, threatened by the bow. It was carrying something in its hands. Its bushy tail drew nearer to the body. As the long scaly back retreated into a furry torso, legs stretched from beneath it in a transformation comparable to that which Dylan had made. It assumed the form of a squirrel, though Angelica had never seen any with such dark fur. His appearance gave her a spiny impression, quite different from the squirrels from her home. After a nod from Angelica, Dylan reluctantly quivered his arrow and withdrew his bow. "The princess is right," said the mysterious squirrel. "In fact, I am a friend. Captain Vega has anchored the sky cruiser in the clearing near my village, Pistache. He told me you've come into the forest in search of the elemental stone, Luminor, but have no bag to carry it in. As a token of my friendship, I bring this satchel for you from my village. Please use it for that purpose. After you finish your affairs within the forest, I would like you to visit my village. I have some matters that I want to discuss regarding your journey. Princess Angelica Cherryfur." He stepped forward and handed the satchel to her, and she gratefully accepted it, saying, "Thank you. I shouldn't have gone into a deep forest to get a stone without any means of carrying it. How foolish of me." Dylan said, "I was thinking of carrying it for you, but giving you a bag would have been a good idea. I should have paid more attention to the things we might need during our excursion through the woods." Dylan knew that Angelica had forgotten, out of inexperience, to bring along some item to carry the stone, but he didn't want her to feel foolish. He too had also forgotten to prepare the means for returning with the Luminor. "When we get along to the next village," he said, "perhaps we should do better to prepare ourselves for the road ahead." "I forgot to introduce myself," the dark-haired squirrel said. "My name is Nadre Scalebrush. When you come to Pistache, I will make sure, as chief, that our merchants provide you freely with whatever you need on your journey, within reason. I will return to my village and tend to our current guests." Dylan said, "Not far back we passed a colony of Calderlux ants, so we must be near the meadow. Although the habitat of the forest changes often, they proficiently adjust along with it, provided that luminescent plants are growing nearby. Their main source of food is the nectar extracted from the Geopsychus rosalis during the hardening process of the Luminor." "Dylan," Nadre scoffed, "the ants, and many other bugs, once crawled everywhere in the forest, but you should know that." Then he transformed fully into a snake and slipped into the grass, pausing only to say, "Don't forget to visit Pistache after you're done here in the forest." With that, he vanished, just as suddenly as he had when he first appeared. Angelica took a moment to take in what had just happened. "Wait, so Nadre knew your name, and you drew an arrow when he approached? Did you know him as well?" Dylan replied, "Our two tribes, the Falcoes Squirrelin folk and the Herperes Squirrelin folk, have long harvested the same Luminor from this forest. Because we come from different peoples, with the forest being our home and not theirs, there have been quarrels between us. We have not always been the best of friends, but sometimes we are on friendlier terms than others. So you thought he might attack? He very well might have if Vega's ship hadn't stopped by, and they didn't know who was coming. Any of the Herpro, Esquirrel, foragers or scouts might have attacked us. Vega may have visited us ahead of us for that reason. We should be thankful we avoided unnecessary conflict. Almost immediately they arrived at a waterfall. This water flows from a spring which is up on the plateau where the luminescent meadow is. Although the environment in this forest always changes, there are places that have long stayed the same, and this small stream is one of them. We have made it most of the way to our first goal. Angelica was awed by Dylan's knowledge of the surrounding nature, for she only knew of the towers of her castle, and some of the village outside. To the side of the waterfall in front of them was a cleft where many of the climbing vines of the varied species reached up through the forest and onto a plateau. A fresh sweet scent filled the air as Angelica drew near, and Dylan's face lit up. "Here we are," he beamed. "Once we have climbed this hefty vine here, we will finally reach the luminescent meadow. If we are lucky enough, there will be a new, untouched Luminor for us to take." To make sure the meadow was uninhabited, Dylan flew up ahead of Angelica in his Falco Esquirrel form. He saw a freshly born Luminor stone in the meadow. He also saw that there was no one else currently in the area. "Everything is perfect," he called down to Angelica. "Come on up, and you will see the luminescent plants, as well as the newly born stone." Excited, Angelica quickly climbed the larger of the vines, until she made it onto the brightly lit meadow. The sweet fragrance was stronger than it had been before. Now she understood why ants and other bugs regularly frequented the meadow to eat. It was very clear to see where the stones were because of their immense glow. Dylan sat down to rest while he watched Angelica collect her stone, her Luminor. Seeing her reaction brought back fond memories of his childhood. Her eyes sparkled when she first set them on the shimmering wonder that lay on the bough of the Geocidicus rosalis before her. The brightly shining light glistened on her fur as she reached out to lift the stone from its place. To Angelica, Luminor was truly astonishing to behold, as though Sarzana itself had been born from the surrounding plants. "I wonder whether we will ever have the chance to travel to Sarzana," she said quietly to herself. But it seemed as if Dylan had overheard her talking, because he responded, "It is truly magnificent to see. It would be nice to also journey together on that planet as well before you assume your role as queen." Angelica hadn't yet thought about that as a possibility, and Dylan had essentially invited her to go with him. "You really would go with me?" she asked excitedly. He smiled and said, "I already told you I would travel with you wherever you would like to go, for however long it takes." She felt a new warm feeling in her heart that was somehow calming but also flustering at the same time. Eventually, she put the stone away. "When I finish my journey around the world, let's go to Sarzana together, even if nobody else wants to come along with us," she said with a newly found confidence. "Let's do that," Dylan said, gazing gaily at Angelica from beneath the acacia tree. He stood up. "We'll sleep here tonight. There's something I want to do together with you tomorrow." In the soft grass of the luminescent meadow, they slept comfortably, in spite of the perpetual light in the woods, which never dimmed. The only clues that they had to tell them when it became night were the change in color of the sky and the slight drop in temperature. When they awoke the next morning, they set out further northeast towards the edge of the forest. Dylan found a tall cypress tree that looked easy enough for Angelica to climb, and he told her to make her way up while he scouted ahead to ensure everything was safe. He transformed into a buzzard and flew up to the top. There wasn't anything out of the ordinary on his way up, and as he had been told, he saw the sky cruiser anchored outside of Pistache. He looked down. Before he knew it, Angelica had caught up with him. "Well, you're off to a good start this morning," Dylan laughed, as she hopped up onto the branch that he was perching on. "I'm getting the hang of this," Angelica said. "I'm ready to go find the rest of the stones." She was excited when she caught up with Dylan. Looking at his broad chest and wings, she felt that she could depend on him whenever she needed to. His feathers gleamed in the morning sunlight, and his face looked wise and regal in this form. "I wonder if you know why I've brought you up here." "To see the view?" she guessed nonchalantly. "Oh, but so much more. Climb onto my back and you'll see what it's like to fly," he said. He turned around so that she could mount. Angelica felt a new sort of shyness that she hadn't felt before come over her. Timidly, she climbed onto Dylan's back. Without much warning, he tipped over the edge and vaulted from the branch. 49. Chapter 3. Challenge the Desert. Awakening. Well, we're going to read Chapter 3 next time. Thank you for watching and listening. You can find the book on Amazon, like I always say, and you can see me working on some of the illustrations for the next book on my live stream recordings from Facebook in my other playlist. Well, till next time.